Hey folks, I'm Chris and I'm your Commander Mechanic. It's November, meaning I'm working with Extra Life in support of sick kids' children's hospitals all month. Check out the links in the description below for how to support this great cause and win some prizes like precons, quiver gear, and more. Crimson VOW is right around the corner and we've received the full set list, which I'll link in the description as well. This set is dripping with flavor and blood, centered around the wedding of Olivia Voldaren and Edgar Markov. But what does it mean for us as Commander players? What kind of goodies are they giving us? Let's take a look at my top Commander cards in Crimson VOW. First, our honorable mentions. This goes to the fantastic wedding-themed cards we're seeing in the set. From Groom's Finery, to Bride's Gown, to the wedding invitations. It's so interesting to see flavor like this so atypical of a Magic set. Our next honorable mention is for the fantastic black and white alternate arts and lands we're getting again in this set. These were hands down my favorite in Midnight Hunt, and I'm glad to see them back here. The black and white legends have a creepy black and white movie feel to them, and the lands are incredible top to bottom. I'm really a big fan. Now for our dishonorable mentions, they can't all be winners. The first goes to blood tokens. These were hailed as equivalent to treasures, clues, and food, and ended up being nowhere as good as any of them. There are plenty of cards in the set that make these tokens, and there's almost nothing to do with them. I doubt we'll see blood come back in sets apart from maybe a future Modern Horizons set, so this is a standalone mechanic that'll be one-off in most Commander decks. A real shame, as this could have been something. Putting a +1/+1 counter on a creature rather than a rummage, maybe. Our next dishonorable mention goes to one standout card in particular, Odric Bloodcursed. Odric is a beloved character from this plane and this lore, appearing across a dozen cards in Magic's past. And in this set, he finally succumbs to the creatures he hunts, being cursed as a vampire as well. The lore isn't what I'm displeased with here, but rather the card itself. For our format, the last thing you want is a creature that does nothing in an empty board state. For each iteration of Odric, it's been this issue, and it's disappointing to see the same thing here. They could have given Odric one keyword, so he triggered at least once on every enters the battlefield, but instead, if you chose him as your commander and you cast him into an empty board, he's a vanilla 3/3, and that's terrible. Poor Odric. Alright, now our top cards. I'm going to be prioritizing the use within our format. The more often we'll see it, the closer it's going to come to ubiquity, and how desirable or useful it is will push them higher and higher in my rankings. First up is the Cemetery Cycle. Each color got one of these graveyard hate on a stick creatures that all provide additional upside to them. From destroying creatures to dealing damage, to reducing costs, to making tokens, to be able to cast spells off the top of your library. Some of these range from exiling when they enter the battlefield to being able to exile more cards when they attack. And I personally think the blue and green ones, triggering on enters the battlefield and attacking, are the stronger of the cycle. I expect to see these pop up in Commander decks from time to time when you need some sort of graveyard removal but don't want a do-nothing card in these colors that just removes graveyards. If there's no other synergies in your deck to exiling cards from graveyards, these will be your go-tos. Next, we have Ill-Tempered Loner and its flip side, Howlpack Avenger. This is a mono-red Boros Reckoner, and if you've ever played with Brash Taunter, you know how silly that can get. But that's not where this stops, no. When he flips into Howlpack Avenger, he turns all permanents you control into Boros Reckoners, creatures, planeswalkers, and anything else that can take damage. When you combine this with a Blasphemous Act or a Star of Extinction, these can very quickly become game over for the entire table in a single turn. The fact that you can do this in mono red is why it's earned a spot in the list. The next card on our list is a personal favorite of mine, Mirror Hall Mimic, which flips into Ghastly Mimicry. It's a clone, so naturally I love it. Being able to get more than one copy of a creature in a singleton format can be broken, and I love to break clones. But this is a 4-mana clone with the ability to be disturbed from the graveyard as Ghastly Mimicry. This aura creates a copy of the enchanted creature during your upkeep, meaning this clone has a use on the battlefield or in the graveyard. Fantastic if you're milling cards, discarding cards, or anything else. That kind of value is always welcome in our format. Next, we have another flip creature in Avabruck Caretaker, and its alter ego Hollowhenge Huntmaster. This bulky green werewolf has hexproof, making it immediately tough to deal with, and its daybound side puts 2 counters on a creature at the beginning of combat on your turn, getting you immediate value. But its nightbound side ups that ante, giving all creatures you control hexproof and putting 2 +1/+1 counters on each creature you control at the beginning of combat on your turn, including itself. This is a big way to surprise the table with a self-protecting super anthem every turn. If this creature survives more than a single turn in play on a board with even a small amount of creatures, the game's not lasting much longer. Next on our list is the latest tidbit of white card draw we're getting in Welcoming Vampire. This 3-mana vampire is a mentor of the meek every turn for free, provided we're making creatures with power 2 or less. This is great for token decks or decks with creatures with flash, ensuring you can draw additional cards at no additional cost. Just a bit of a challenge. You can tell Wizards is slowly easing into how good can we make White's card draw, since we're getting teased with it like this. I think this is one of the best iterations we've received outside of Esper Sentinel, and I'm looking forward to seeing it make an impact in all of the humans or tokens decks in Commander. The next card on my list is Change of Fortune. The latest wheel and the first they've printed in Standard in quite some time, Change of Fortune costs 4 as opposed to the traditional 3 for a very good reason. Not only do you get to discard your hand, but you draw cards for each card you've discarded this turn. Meaning, if you can copy this spell, it suddenly draws you twice as many cards, getting exponentially larger for every copy. Being able to cast this with a 1000-Year Storm or an Underworld Breach in play can very quickly draw you the better part of your library, not to mention base synergies with looting effects like Faithless Looting. This is one wheel that may draw you 10 or more cards, and is going to be far more affordable than any other wheel options we have in our format. Finally, my number 1 commander card from Crimson Vow is Wash Away. That's right, an uncommon counterspell. This one has incredible functionality in our format in that it's a 1-mana counter for commander spells. At base level, it counters a spell not cast from the hand, and unfortunately for us, all of our commanders are cast from the command zone, not from hand. So this is a potential gotcha that can hurt everyone that runs a Zakama or a Toxrill as a commander, instantly wasting your turn and adding commander tax to the next cast. That doesn't feel great. The fact it can be cast for 3 mana in an emergency to counter anything is great too. I love modal cards and the versatility they represent, and this one no less. Expect to see this in control decks and even at the higher end of the power scale in our format. So there are my picks for top commander cards in Crimson Vow, and I'm not even touching the legendary creatures themselves. That I'm saving for my November series. I hope you're tuning in every day for a new brew and micro deck tech all month long. And be sure to support Extra Life and Sick Kids via the links below. As always folks, good luck and have fun.